Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. Now, this is a video tutorial of a written tutorial which I did, I think it was in May 2015. So you can download the written tutorial from the files section of the Facebook page for Fans of Serif Software. So you can follow the instructions from the written tutorial when you do this yourself, because there is a lot of intricate steps and it's going to be difficult for me to remember it, and I'm sitting here reading it from my own instructions. So just trying to remember it off the top of your head after watching the video will be very difficult. So I would suggest that you download the written tutorial and use that to follow the instructions. So this is the image that I did in the tutorial, and I'm going to use it in this video tutorial. And as you can see, it's not a great picture, but it's a daytime shot. And what I want to do with this image is I want to make it an evening type shot, not a full nighttime shot, but sort of an early evening shot. And then I want to add some fake lightning and then some fake rain. So completely changing the mood of the image. Now you can do this to whatever image you want to, but I thought it was good to have this image because I've got a decent amount of sky to work with for the lightning and the rain, but you do also have a focal point for the lightning to be hitting. So this is why I picked this picture. So the first thing that we need to do is to duplicate this background layer. Down here on the right is the layers display area, and if you just right click on the background and then come up to duplicate, and then you can rename it, but I don't bother, but you can if you want to, but I just click OK. So now you've got two layers, background and background copy. The darker one is always the one that you are working on. So if I clicked on the background, if I made any alterations now, it would affect the background. But I want to just affect the top layer, which is the background copy, as I haven't renamed it. Now what I want to do now is to use the hue, saturation and lightness tool. I could add this as another layer by using the adjustments layer. As you can see, it is here, hue, saturation. But I want to use this just as a tool. So if you come up to image, adjust, and then you've got hue, saturation, or you can press Control, Shift and H, and the tool will open. Now at the moment it is set on all colors, which is this box here, and if I lowered this all the way to the left, the whole image would go black and white, which is not what I want to do. What I want to do is just work on both the cyan and the blue colors in this image. So I will click on the cyan box first, and then I will lower the saturation slider all the way to the left, and then I'll click on the blue color range box, lower that all the way to the left, and click OK. Now as you can see here, the sky has gone pretty much just black and white, and I've not really affected anything in the image. But obviously if you had some blue in your image, it may affect that as well. But what I'm going to do now is change the blending mode. So if you come back down to the layers display area here, where it says normal, there's a little arrow on the right. You click on that, and then if you come down to multiply, would help if I put this in alphabetical order. Where's multiply? Oh, there. Second, third one down. And you can see that instantly makes the whole image darker. It has brought back some of the blue that was in the sky. And this is only the first step of doing this, but as you can see, this is now already starting to look much like an evening shot rather than a daytime shot. Now what I want to do now is to select the sky area. There are a number of ways of doing this, but I'm going to use a fairly quick way, and I'm going to use the magic wand tool, which is found on this toolbar down here on the left hand side, and it is the sixth one down. Just click over that, or put your cursor over that, and it will come up magic wand tool. So you just click that, and then you come over to the image. Now what I do, because it's not going to select all this in one hit, because there's different shades and different colors, what I do is I click on the add to selection icon, because by default I think it just starts on new, which means that if I click that there, and if I click elsewhere, you will lose everything that was selected before. So what I do is click on the add to selection, and then it will keep adding to all the areas that you click on to what's already been selected. So basically what you are doing is selecting all pixels of a similar color that are nearby. I have my tolerance set on 10 with anti-alias on and contiguous on. This should pretty much select most of what you want quite quickly. You just keep clicking around the sky area where you want to be selected in your image. Now there are always going to be a few areas you've missed. If you zoom in, you see I've got a couple up here, just small areas, and invariably they're also close to the edge of items. And I think we're almost there. I've got a few bits in here. I say this isn't necessarily the best tool, but it is the quickest for what I'm trying to do, and most of it's going to be lost in the darkness that we're going to add to make this an even more of an evening time shot. And I think that's going to be good enough for the purposes of this tutorial. One last look down this edge over here. I've just got a few bits around this tree. I'm not going to go too mad with it, because it is going to, especially that as that is black, it will end up looking more like the nighttime shot anyway in that corner. So I'll zoom out again. So that is that sky area selected. Now I just want to modify this slightly. There's a modify selection button up here, and what I'm going to do is just raise the feather slider up to about 5 or 6 pixels, and then that will just help blend that selection more into the building, and it will hopefully make it a smoother image. Now what I want to do now is make a new layer of this selection. Now the easiest way to do that is just hold down the control key and press J, and as you can see over here there is a new layer. If I turn this one off and that one off, as you can see it is just the sky that's been selected. So I will turn that back on and that back on. So you now have the sky selected on a new layer, and then all I need to do now is to change the blending mode of this sky layer to make sure that that layer is highlighted, and the blending mode is going to be, and I can't read my oh yeah, this is also, oh no, because it's already on multiply. Sorry, that's my mistake. I can't read my own instructions. Because it was copied from this layer, which was already multiply, the blending mode for that layer automatically comes over as multiply. So if I press Ctrl and D now, it will get rid of those marching ants from the selection area. So this is now starting to look more like an evening shot. Now you could, if you want to, if your image needs it, you could duplicate that top layer again, and it will make the sky even darker still, because you've got two versions of it. Now I'm not going to keep that way, but if your image needs it, then I would suggest you do that. I'm not going to, because I mean there is a light area, sort of halo around the church, and the darker you make that, the more obvious it is. But it may not be a problem on your images, so I'll just delete that layer that I made there. But that is a little tip that wasn't in the written tutorial that you can use if you want to. Now the next bit I want to do is I'm going to merge that layer to the layer below it, leave me back with just two layers, and you can do that by coming up to layers, down to merge, and then merge down, and then that layer that was selected will merge down to the layer below it. So we are now back to having just two layers. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a blank layer above this one, and you just do that by coming down to the layers display area, and the first icon on the bottom is new layer. You just click on that, click OK, and then you have a new blank layer. And what I'm going to add to this is a vignette. A vignette makes the outside edge darker. So you can come up to Effects, Others, Other, and then down to Vignette. Now yours should be by default set to black, but if it isn't, you can click inside this color box and the color selector will open up, and then just click right up here in the top corner and select black, and then just click OK. But mine's already set to black, so I don't have to worry. And also, again, by default, I think the blur is in the middle somewhere. Just bring it right over to the right, up to 200. And this will make this an even more blurred image here. And then just click OK. Now what I want to do now is to lower the opacity of this layer. Make sure again it's highlighted, and then the opacity slider is here. You can just click on here and then drag this down to about 20-25%. A lot of it depends on your personal image, because all you're doing is just slightly darkening the edges to help make it look a bit moodier. I'll leave it there on 26%, but I'll say around about 20-25%. Now the next one I want to do now is I want to add a lens filter. It's almost, it sort of recreates the look of if you had a filter on the end of your camera, because you can get them in different colors and they produce different results, and this way you can sort of mimic those lens filters. So down here in the bottom you have a half black and white circle, which is a new adjustment layer. You click on that and you come up to lens filter. Now it opens up a new adjustment toolbox here, and by default the color is set on orange, but from this drop down menu, if you come down to cold, it makes the whole image look dark blue, adds a dark blue filter to the image, makes it a more evening type shot. And again, what I'd do here is I'd raise this up even higher to sort of 80-85%, again depending on your image. So that, I hope, should now looks more like an early evening shot rather than the daytime shot that I started with. If I hold down the Alt key and click on this hide icon down here, that's where I started and that's where I am now. So I've gone from a daytime shot to a fake evening shot. So if that's all you wanted to do with your image, have a fake daytime shot, you could stop now, merge your layers and save it. But as I'm going to be adding lightning and rain, I will be carrying on. But first, what I am going to do is save this as an SPP file. An SPP file is a format that works with PhotoPlus, and it saves your everything that you've done so far. It won't just, if you save as a JPEG, for example, it just saves this image. But if you save it as an SPP file, it saves the image as it is and all the processes that you've done. So you'd have all the layers. So if something goes wrong later or you don't like it, you can always retrace back to start where you were up to this point by just reloading the SPP file and start again on the next section. So I will just quickly come to save as, and it automatically by default should let you pick SPP rather than JPEG, but if it is on JPEG, make sure it's on SPP format and then give it a name. I'm going to have to rename this because I'd already saved it in the previous thing, so I'll just call it version 2 and then save, and that, after it's done its little thing, it will save all that information so that if anything goes wrong, like a computer crashing for example, or you just don't like where you're going, you can always come back to that file and start from the next process. So the next part of this video will be looking at adding the lightning. I'll be back in a minute once I've just reread my instructions and remind myself what I have to do next. Okay, moving on to making the fake lightning. Now you can either carry on from where you were from making the fake evening shot, or if you've already got an evening shot you just want to add some lightning to, you can open that one. So it's either carrying on or starting afresh, depending on what you are trying to do with your particular image. Now what we need to do now is to make a new image. If you make sure that your foreground and background colors are set white foreground and black background, by default yours is probably black and white, but if you click this little arrow up here they will switch, so white is the foreground, black is the background. And if you come over to the file menu and just click new, you want to make your image size about, first of all you want to set it to pixels and you want to set it to 600, something like that. I will just change mine to 600. So you've got 600 pixels, and then from this drop down menu, if you have background color like that, as we've already set it to black, click OK, it will make a black plain background. If you've forgotten to do that bit and you've got a white background or transparent background, you can always set your colors so black is the foreground color and then just use the flood fill tool to make it black. I'll put that back to there because we now want you want to make sure that white is your foreground colour, because we are going to then use the paintbrush tool. Just click on this, and you want opacity up to 100. A soft brush would help because it gives you the blurred edges that we are going to need, and around somewhere between 15 to 25, 30 in size. I'll just reduce my size down a little bit, and to about 20. Now, as I know that in my particular image, I have the church here mainly filling the right of the image and the bottom, and my sky area is up here in the top left. So I'm going to draw my lightning coming from the top left and come down. Now, I'm not going to go too mad and drawing lots of lines. I'm just going to try, especially this, if this is your first attempt at doing this, I would suggest you stick to making it a fairly easy lightning effect, and just maybe one or two prongs. I'll just do it like that, and I will leave it at that. Right, so now you have your basic lightning effect. What we need to do now is we need to add some Gaussian blur to this image. So if you come up to Effects and then Blur, Gaussian blur, and you want roughly about 1.5, maybe 2 in the blur. Don't want to go too mad with it, and then just click OK. So as you can see, we're already starting to blur it a little bit, and the next thing you want to do is again come up to Effects, and this time come to Distort, and you want to go to Displace. Now, this box up here, when you open this, it may be just grey and nothing will happen here. What we need to do is to set a pattern to help scatter this. But first I just want to say I would leave this on tile and wrap around, and we will alter these bits in a minute. But if this is grey, or it is a pattern that you don't like the effect of, if you double click in there, it will open up a patterns box. There are some default patterns already here, and also in a drop down menu you have other patterns that you can pick. Say for example weaves, and then if you click on certain ones you can see how it affects the lightning image that we want. Obviously a lot of these will never look like lightning, but you can click around and try and find one that you like the look of. Like I said, there are many different types of images, patterns, and what you're trying to do is find the most realistic looking effect. If I remember rightly, I had it on bricks and stone, and I just clicked the first one, and it gave me this effect, which I quite liked. So I'll click OK, and it will take you back to the Displace menu, and then it's just a case of moving the sliders up and down to get a look and feel of what you want your lightning to look like. So I'll leave mine about there and click OK. So now you have your lightning image. Now I would possibly suggest that you make another lightning image, and then you can try both of them and see which one you prefer. So I'll just quickly go through that again. Click New. It's already set up and that. And paintbrush is already on. set on white, and this time I'll make it a slightly more complex lightning bolt, and then come to effects, blur, Gaussian blur, it's still set on what it was before, and then effects, distort, displace, and then I'll keep it on those settings as well. So I have two, in fact I've got three, the one I made earlier when I practiced this before I came back, but I will just work with these two that I've made, and I will select this one, and then I will come up to select all, or you can press Control and A. Select Control and A, and that select all the image, and then you come to Edit, Copy, and then go back to your image that you want to add the lightning to, and then just Edit, Paste as a new layer. And it's not a huge image compared to my original, but if I click on the Move tool, I'll just move that up there for now. And what I will do is I will just hide that for a minute, come back to this other image, and then again select all, edit, copy, go back to my image here, and then edit, paste as a new layer, and then again move that one up there. So if I wanted to, I've now got a choice of two lightnings, and I can see which one works the best. Okay, so what we're going to need to do now is to resize this layer that I have on the top, which is layer 3. Currently I'm going to try this one first. I should just move, yes, right. And to do this I need to use the deform tool, and which is the one just below the move tool, and when you click on that you get this line going around the box and little squares where you can click and grab, hold and alter the shape and size. So what I'm doing, I'm going to come to the bottom right hand one, and I'm going to drag it outwards and wait for it to render that image. Maybe just stretch it a little bit this way. Now I'm going to roughly get it where I want it, and then I'm going to change the blending mode to screen, and then you can then just tweak how that looks to suit your image and where you want the lightning to touch. Let me just drag it in slightly and bring this right down here. So it's probably too far. That one's probably not going to work as well because I've probably got too many prongs. It's very difficult to work out where they're going to touch. But say if I just move that over there, and I'll leave that on that one. I will turn that one off and turn the other one on, and click on and highlight this second layer. Again, the deform tool is still set, so I'll just drag this out, change the blending mode to screen, and then just bring this down a little bit. Yes, this is probably a little bit better. And I'm going to hold down the control key and just drag this one out. That's a weird angle like that. Yeah, so I think I prefer that to that. Both work in their own way. It's up to you which one, you know, if you do make more than one lightning image, you can then play around and see which one you prefer. Now I think I prefer that one myself. So I'll just turn the deform tool off, and so it gets rid of those lines. Yes, I think I personally prefer that one. You may prefer whichever ones that you have made. So I will click on the one I don't want and then right click and go to delete. So I do just have that one left now. Now the one thing I'm going to do, you can do this in two ways. Now at the moment it's a bright white lightning bolt, which may look, or does look in my opinion, a bit false. You could lower the opacity of this slightly. In fact, you could do both. You could lower it slightly and then add the lens filter again. But this time, if you right click on the lens filter and come up to clip to layer below, that filter will now only work on the lightning bolt image. And I'm going to again put this on cold, so it is a bluey white lightning bolt rather than a bright white lightning bolt. So in conjunction with the lowering of the opacity of that particular layer down to about 75-76%, I then added a lens filter that was set to cold, but it was clipped just to that layer. So that is now the end of the looking at making a fake lightning bolt. So this is the end of this part. Now I would again suggest to you that you save your progress as an SPP file, and I'm going to call this version 3. Save. So I've now got two versions of this. So I have up to the point where I made the sky look more like an evening skyline. So if at some future date I still feel like I didn't do a very good job on the lightning, I can always go back and redo it. And then the second version, I've saved it so I have it with the evening and the lightning added. So it will save all those layers. And the next thing we need to look at is making the false rain. So again, I'll go away and read my notes to remind myself how I did it, and I will be back shortly. Alright, okay, moving on to the fake rain. Now obviously if you wanted to have your image just an evening shot with rain, you could bypass the lightning part of it. It's up to you, and you can try this out. This I must admit is a little bit hit and miss, and it's a bit of trial and error is involved in this. But what we need to do is, assuming you are at the same point that I was at, which is having all these different layers, what we need to do now is to merge these down, or if you've already saved the progress that you was up to, you can just load in your particular image that you want to use. But I'm going to come to layers, merge, and merge all, and then I'm going to duplicate that layer by right clicking on that and coming up to duplicate. Now what I need to do now is to increase the canvas size, because with this fake rain process it doesn't work too well near the edges. So if you make the canvas size a bit bigger, it will sort of go over the edges of the image, and where it's not, the image, the effect isn't working too well near the edges here, it won't notice so much, and then we can crop out the image later on. So if you come up to the image menu and come down to canvas size, we're going to change the ratios to percent and put a tick into relative, and I'm going to increase this both height and width by 10%, and then just click OK. So this is now a bigger canvas size. And after that, next you want to do is make a new blank layer by clicking on this button down here and then clicking OK when the menu comes up. And we now want to flood fill this blank layer with black. So make sure you've got black as your foreground color. Click on the flood fill tool and then just click anywhere inside this, and it will fill everything up in black. Now the next thing we want to do is to add some noise. So if you come to effects, noise, add noise, you have this add noise toolbox here, panel. You can alter the percentage of how much noise you add, but I would suggest you come up to 75% or so. And the next thing you want to do is to just click OK. And now we're going to add a bit of Gaussian blur to that effect. Not a vast amount, just come to blur, Gaussian blur, and you want about 0.5 of radius, and then just click OK. It's just adding a small hint of blur to that. Now the next thing we need to do, it sounds a bit bizarre considering what we're doing here, but we now want to slightly reduce the amount of noise that is here, and to do that I'm going to come down to add an adjustment layer, click on that and come up to levels. And as you can see here from the histogram, because most of this image is black, most of the histogram is over here on the left, and there's no white being detected, although there is white speckles, but there is no white being detected. So we now need to bring in the left hand shadows thing, pointer over to the right. This will make the black areas even blacker, and then bring the white highlights one right into probably the edge of the histogram, so all these three boxes are very close to each other. I'll probably come a little bit more than that. Now it does look like there is next to nothing there now, and this is why I said at the beginning of this, making the rain part of it, is a lot of it is down to guesswork, because you're having to try and work out whether this will be enough noise or what have you for your image without actually being able to see it just yet. So you may try on the settings I've given you or your own settings and find it doesn't work, and you may have to backtrack, which is why it is good to have saved that as an SPP file before you start. So we now have that levels adjustment. What I want to do is clip that to the layer below, which is the noise layer. So just come up to clip to layer below, come back and highlight that layer one where the noise is, and we are going to add the motion blur to this. So that's effects, blur, motion blur, and I would suggest that you have a distance of around 30, and you can change the angle of the direction that it's going to blur to. I mean, as my image is coming, the lightning is coming from the top left down to the bottom right. I'm going to have the rain coming in the same direction, so I've moved the arrow to point downwards, like so, and then click OK. And like I said, at the moment it just looks like a completely black image, and I do not really have any idea of what it looks like at this present moment in time. Now, it took me a long time to work out how to get around this, and what happens is with the levels layer, if you click back on that, because I moved these settings, it changed to custom. But if I come back and click and put that on default, you can now see the rain effect on this image and the direction that they're all going, like from up from the left down to the right. And then again come back and click on the layer 1 layer and change its blending mode to screen. So I hope you can see the effect of this rain on the image here. If I zoom in really close, hopefully you can see that. That's like a torrential downpour. I mean, maybe 30 might have been too much, but I quite like the effect. So all you need to do then is merge your layers, merge all, and then come up to the crop tool and then just crop away the white border, and then double click inside there, and there you have your finished image. And to a certain extent it has made that a bit lighter, so you could always add a levels adjustment and then just bring back some of that darkness from the previous layers, and it would also bring back, make the rain image look a bit better as well. So with that I will just merge the layers again and then save that as a JPEG under a new name, and then that is that finished. So you have fake evening skyline, fake lightning and fake rain. I hope this has all been some help to you. So thank you for watching and goodbye.